Okay, hello you guys. It is Jude here. Um, some may know me by the Pretty Coach. Some may know me by Autochthonous Aries, and to others, you may be seeing this on my newest channel, which is called Soul Goddess TV. I am starting over, and I'm starting fresh, and I'm going through like a transformation, and I wanted to just chronicle my journey of that. So that's what my purpose, that's what my intentions are. In the process, because I understand that I'll be just showing up to some people for the very first time ever, I wanted to just kind of take this moment to start sharing. Basically, if I'm honest, I'm going to start sharing. Um, I'll start with how old I am right now just to give me some type of introduction. My name is formerly Jude Andrea Ivy. I changed my name back in 2017 officially, but I changed it in 2015 due to like spiritual beliefs systems and the transformation that I was going through in that regard. And so my name at that point became Naeem Shakam. The meaning of that at the time I thought was pleasant rose, but it really means pleasant early riser. So that's that with that, which was still very true, so I kept it. I have since my name change in my faith that wasn't like ever legalized or whatever. So that was just something that I gave myself. And then I met a guy, I met a man that I wound up legally changing my name. And I chose to do it for duplicitous reasons. And the reason that I chose to do it was because, on one hand, I really always wanted to kind of make that name thing stick a little bit more. But then I also did it and changed my last name to that young man's last name. So, anyway, I then became Jude Naeem Shakam Yashral. And that is who I still am legally on paper, but I'm also Jude Andrea Ivy still. You know, that's me. That'll always be me. So I'm 37 years old as of today. I will be 38 in August of this year. I want to start off by saying that I am not totally healed yet. I am healing. And what I am healing from, some may wonder and some might ask, are just the issues that come with life. You know, and this channel and this series for me, because I will be sharing it on some of my other channels, but this series for me is about being honest and transparent about that, about who I am, you know, who I am from my past, who I am like right now, and who it is that I am manifesting becoming. So if that is something that you guys are interested in, then I would say be sure to hit the subscribe button, be sure to hit the like button on this video before we proceed, and also comment, you know, let me know your thoughts. Please do so respectfully. But yeah, so without further ado, here we go. So this is kind of like a little bit serious for me, and I'm a somewhat serious person, but I'm definitely goofy. And you're going to probably just catch a lot of different sides of me over the course of the series. But I'm trying to kind of um, touch on some key points that I want to make sure that I don't leave out. So, the series is going to be called The Evolution of Jude. And basically, I want to chronicle my glow up. I want to chronicle my glow up. But I want to talk about the glow ups that I've already had before. And I want to do that for numerous reasons. First, because I think that sometimes when we're on this journey as spiritual beings having this beautiful experience, sometimes in our manifestations, we forget what we've already done. You know, you forget the power that you have already. You forget how far you may have already come. And that's if and I think that even those of us who may feel as if we haven't achieved much, trust me, if you take a moment and reflect, there's something that you can say, hey, I did do that and I got through that. So that's what we're about to go through for myself. I'm sharing this about me because that's all I really know about. I only know really and truly about me. And I can say that if my story reminds you of your own in any way, then that'll be our connection, right? That'll be the way that we can relate to one another. Um, so here we go. This portion of this video is going to be really going back and discussing certain parts of my childhood that were very important and significant things that truly altered and changed my life as I knew it. So I feel like I literally remember talking to Source, Universe, God, Goddess, whomever, telepathically while I was in my mom's womb about to be born. I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds far fetched, but the thought came back to me as I was older that I remember this conversation of being given instructions just before I was coming out of. I didn't come out the birth canal, so let me stop playing like that. But before I was born, so before I was taken up by the doctor, because I'm a twin and my mom had a cesarean section, I still, it held. And because I do remember something kind of like a canal, it makes me feel like maybe it was before I was placed into my mom's womb. I don't know exactly what time frame, but I'm telling you guys. And I have no reason to lie, but it don't mean I may not accidentally lie. So forgive me in advance. But this is something that I have told to close family members um, well before me obviously making this video. So if ever you guys want to just hear someone else share with you what they remember, if I have any family members that remember shit like that, I can try to bring them on for you. But I remember sharing this experience with my dad, and I told him how I remember being placed into my mom, or like I felt like I was about to be born in some way. And I had been getting instructions from what I just assumed to be God. And just before, just before like I came down or however that happened, it seems like all the information was just like taken away from me. But the voice that I heard had already told me, you're gonna know. Like I have taught, I've told you everything. You already know what you're supposed to do, all of this stuff, and that these things were gonna be unlocked during different time frames in my life, and because of certain events that were going to make those happen, like activated. Okay, and God, I feel, told me that it was going to be locked away for a time. But each when it was time, it would become available. The information will become available to me. So then I remember just forgetting everything. I shared that with my dad when I was kind of I feel like I was like a young adult, and but in my head I was still kind of like young and girl like that's how I am or how I was around my dad anyway, no matter how old I got. So it is what it is. I remember sharing that randomly, and my dad scoffed. He laughed at me and he was like, girl, okay, you are just so dramatic and you're really reaching. Don't nobody remember that. Well, not only did I remember that, I remembered a little bit more. Like, I feel like I had clear recollection of talking to my parents through my crying. Like, I knew that I was trying to communicate with them, but they didn't understand what I was saying. I just randomly had memories of this shit. And when I randomly told my dad these things this one day, my dad was like, girl, like Jude, you are, you're lying. You're lying. There is nobody who can even remember being 2 or 3, you know? And I was like, but I remember, daddy. And I was also known in my family at that time to have a mouth. Like, my parents are older and they used to tell me it was my mouth that got me in trouble. I talk too much. I was always asking why about something. You know, if they told me to do something, they're just like, you just need to do it because I told you to do it and I'm the mama and the daddy. Don't ask me no questions. And so I was basically known to be a person who talked back. And so I tried not to be disrespectful in this moment, you know, but I was like, but I do remember, you know, and he just wasn't having it. And I was like, it's okay. Like, I know what I can recall. So, you know, I had to let it alone. But I say that to say a bit further down into my childhood, I experienced sexual abuse. I was molested and raped by someone in my family, a trusted male figure. So that eroded so many things like boundaries, and you know, I felt like it was wrong as like maybe a 5 or 6 year old person, but I wasn't sure totally because it's like, well, this person is doing that, and they are a bigger person, so they should definitely know what's right or wrong, even though I felt that it was wrong. It would be so simple as it was like times where this person has to take me to the restroom. I'm not really able to wipe myself like really that good. So they have to wipe me and they're wiping longer and they're doing things that I'm like, okay, I don't think we're supposed to do that. Like, mama don't do that. You know, it's like I'm having these cognitive conversations in my brain as a girl, you know? But I just like, I began to learn how to let my mind wander off because that situation, because I wasn't really sure, was uncomfortable. And like, I was sure, but I wasn't, right? So, and I wasn't trying to get in trouble with this authority figure. So I just was like, I would let them do what they do. And I'm just like looking out the window, going somewhere in my brain. I learned to do that very young. Um, it progressed into actual penetration and rape. And unfortunately, that opened up something in me that it's not wrong, but it was inappropriate because of the timing. So it caused me to know things that I really should not have known at the time. I kept quiet about that for many, many years, but there were residual effects of that abuse, as in, i.e., and I do not say this proudly, but in certain times, I did things to other people, including my fellow siblings, that I am ashamed of. But and when I say that, but it's not like to take away from the shame. It's like I'm ashamed. I'm definitely ashamed. However, I did do what was being acted out upon me. Um, I even feel like I became what the people, like, you know how you're growing up and people call you fast and stuff. Like, I feel like I became like that a little bit. Like, a part of my energy would be, I would be this person who was like, I feel like I was a tease. And I feel like I became a tease very early because of those interactions. Um, so not only did that family member do it for that amount of an extended amount of time, I've always shared that it felt like other people who had that same type of energy just knew and recognized something about me, and it attracted them to me too. So not only did that happen with the family member, but it also happened like molestation, or um, I want to say only molestation after that. I had a series of different people molest me. And in some instances, I have to be totally transparent. In some instances, I put myself, do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Out of, I think, that energy moving in me, with me having no control really over it, with having no wisdom over it, right? I put myself in at least one of those positions. I put myself there. And I remember when I did it. Like, even before I did this video today, that thought flashed across my head randomly, like a day or two ago, about the way that I, as a little person, a little girl who had been at that point tampered with, I'll say, I put myself in a position where I was trying to seduce a guy who was older than me. I was about 10 at this time. Um, I got scared out of my damn mind and ran away, but I'm just talking about the residual effects of this abuse. After that, I was like, I need to chill out. I really began to distrust men, even my own father, who had never inappropriately touched me. I was at one point, like, I was just like, like my dad was my everything. But after that happened, I started to, and don't get me wrong, like, I was growing up anyways, and think dynamics sometimes tend to shift and change between daddies and daughters and mothers and daughters. But it changed in a way that I don't think it would have had that never happened to me. Okay. I did not trust him anymore. So where I used to climb up on my dad's lap and just sit there and just be, you know, just, oh, sorry guys, feeling loved, secure, protected, um, and appreciated, that became, what I just didn't do that anymore because things were inappropriately done that way to me before. So I didn't trust it anymore. So I just started switching up. I started switching up, and I think that there are just psychological things that begin to change. Your mind is rewired, and you start to have to look at life different. Before, I feel like I remember being just like this bubbly ass girl and personality, and it was look at me, look at me. Um, Astrologically speaking, I am the sign of Leo. My sun is in Leo. My moon is in Leo. So you can imagine the sunny disposition. The Even if I didn't do the whole look at me energy, I feel like that would happen anyways in its own way. I will not. I'm having this moment and I'm laughing at myself because I was a little funny looking girl. I was still adorable to me, but I was funny looking. So I had these really big, I had two big, gigantic front teeth. I sucked my thumb since being in my mom's womb, and I hadn't stopped yet at like 10 or whatever. So my teeth had, I started to like, I had an overbite. And nobody, like, I did not know that I was funny looking until somebody else, like, I heard a grown person say that about me. And then it made me start to be a little insecure about me. But at first, I knew nothing wrong about me. I talked, I was opinionated, I performed as far as I'm concerned, like even in everyday life, like if I knew how to do something, I was going to show the little friend group that I knew how to do it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I was very friendly, very jovial all the time. I was calling everybody my friend, even though people were not my friends. Some people genuinely did not like me. They didn't. And I don't even know if they knew why they didn't like me, but some people genuinely didn't like me. And they would just be, you know, sometimes mean. I was also bossy. I was very bossy. What I said had to go. And if it didn't, I had a kind of like an attitude a little bit about it. Of course, things don't work out like that in life. So you have to eventually get over it. But if somebody didn't listen to what I was talking about, I was either going to try to find somebody else to follow me or I was just going to go play by myself if it was that serious. You understand? But all in all, that version of me started to like kind of diminish a little bit. um, I started not wanting to even go outside and play at certain times of the day because, or I would sometimes run outside to go play because of certain times of the day. Because if this person was home and they were in, authority over us, then I knew, I began to expect, I began to know what time, like, it got so bad that I just started going to the person. Like, I just started going and making my way to this person's presence because it literally had become the norm. So that leads me, what I'm about, like, I'm shaking my head and kind of like disbelief and some disgust. But when I was older and I wasn't by that person anymore, and I had so much time to like just be in my brain and to think about it, I feel like my lower vibrational energy, which some may know as the devil or Satan, started to really make me feel like I was a disgusting person. Started to make me feel okay. Before I do that, let me go back. My whole childhood, all I wanted to be was loved. I just wanted to be loved and I wanted to give that love. And as I got older and we would watch these romantic movies, those always used to really move me. And I would really be feeling something. And I'd be like, oh, like, I want to feel that. Don't get me started on the fairy tales. I'd be like, that is so, as a kid, as a girl, I'm like, yeah, I want that. So I always wanted to be loved and I wanted to feel love. So fast forward till I'm about 13 or 14 in middle school. And at this time, I had been settled all the way down to the point to where I was talking about, in my mind, I had made up in my mind, I'm a virgin. I'm not going to do anything wrong with my body. Um, I'm not going to be promiscuous. I'm not going to be a tease. I'm just going to be this polished version of myself who just tries to do everything right. That was the version of me that I conjured up in my head. And I began to look at ladies at the time in the church because we grew up in the church. I looked at women who I admired. It could be their energy, it could be the way that they dress, it could be the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. I began to pick up mannerisms and things that I appreciated that I thought, hey, I can take this for myself and make this a part of me. So I did that and I became this new version of Jude. But that did not take away from the negative thoughts of worthlessness that I used to have. Thankfully, my father and my mother always taught us about God, and we read the Bible, and I knew scriptures to the point to where the scriptures would pop back up in my head almost as if they were fighting against the thoughts that I had about myself. So I had thoughts of worthlessness, thoughts of disgust, because it's like, you're disgusting. I'm about to act it out real quick. you're disgusting. No man is ever going to love you. No man is ever going to want you once they find out how nasty you are. You used to have sex with your brother and you enjoyed it. These were the thoughts. And then I used to be like, but did I enjoy it though? I didn't really want to be there. But the truth was is that the way that the body is made, sometimes my body was betraying me, as in my body was responding to being stimulated. So I was even confused about and started to believe that, okay, maybe I did like it. And then I fought with myself for liking sex because who likes sex and with their brother? Like, that's not right. That's wrong. There's all so many levels of wrong. So these spirits would come up and they're like, you liked it. You're nasty. And if anybody really knew that about you, they wouldn't want shit to do with you. And for a moment, I would believe this shit and I would sit in my bed and I would cry. And then I'd pray and I'd be like, God, I'm so dirty and I'm so bad. I'm such a bad girl. You know, I love you, God, and I always just wanted to do what was right here. I think that I'm going to sin and I think that I'm going to keep on sinning. So, how about you just let me die, like maybe in my sleep? Nothing too painful, but how about you just take me away from here so I don't mess up anymore? Take me away from here so I don't go to hell, so that I don't ruin my fucking chances of getting back to you. I didn't say fucking, it's not, but this is me feeling it passionately now. I said those types of prayers. So technically, that was me wishing suicide, right? I wanted to die. And I thought that me dying would save me. And like I was sharing, the thoughts of the Bible, things that were taught in the Bible about being fearfully and wonderfully made, and just talking about how much God loves creation and how much God loves us, these are the thoughts that combated those other thoughts. And they used to talk to me like, no, you didn't like that. You didn't like that. Your body just did what it was designed to do. You know, you were a victim. You were a victim. You didn't choose to do that. So there began my knowledge of being able to decipher, I guess, the thoughts that were just mine, thoughts that came from my lower version of myself, and thoughts that came from the higher version of myself that I know or that I would call as God. And I wouldn't know any of this until much later in life. Um, but I had those types of conversations. And I even used to have really, really bad dreams, to the point to where I would have to go in my dreams and choose a different choose I chose the way this was, and I realize now that this was part of my healing. I dreamt up a scenario in my head of me and my brother, and I reenacted what I would have wished could have happened in those moments, where I say no, or I stand up for myself, or I tell on him and poof, it's gone, like it's over. You know what I mean? I dreamt up also times of being very violent towards him. And for some reason, all of these things kind of helped me work through my issues of that. So, I had to begin to learn how to combat all those negative thoughts about myself. I still wanted to be loved. I wanted to be somebody's wife, I thought someday. And I think I still may, but the child, the verdict sometimes is still out on that. However, at that time, I wanted to be someone's wife, and I felt like I knew that. I was like, I want to be in love, I want to love someone, and I want to be loved. And that's what I wanted. And I was 13 thinking this way. I was reminded of the fact that at that age, I used to dumpster dive. We had a church that was like right across the parking lot from where we stayed in this duplex off of Griggs Road in Houston, Texas. And I don't even remember when I found out about the magazines, but there was a recycling bin, and I just was being nosy and exploring, and I looked in there and I saw like so many magazines, and the magazines were about weddings. And I was like, oh, yes, I am here for this. I am that girl. I was the hopeless romantic girl. I wanted a wedding. My wedding planning skills had already began to happen. And I was like I said, 13, 14 years old. I had old cookie tins full of magazine clippings of the types of dresses that I felt like I would have wanted to have. And those changed with each year. Um, because you grow and you become different and you like certain things. But anyway, I had dresses. I had my bridesmaids' dresses. I had my mother of the bride's dress. I had my rings. I had guys. It was pretty serious at that time for me. Okay. Um, Not only that, there were other magazines that I enjoyed reading. Cosmopolitan, not Cosmopolitan, Cosmo Girl. Excuse me. I enjoy reading Cosmo Girl, and I would just I loved learning about myself at the time, and especially hearing good things, not so much negative things, but the good things I ate those up. I did pay attention to the negative things, and I just tried to use it as something that if I didn't want to do it, if I could help it. Turns out some of the stuff you really can't help until experiencing it, and then you can work on it. But I would read the astrology section, and even though I had been taught it was wrong, I would still go and sneak and read it. And I'd be like, how is this wrong when it's right? Like, this got me spot on. How is this wrong? And they're telling me about myself and they've never met me before, but it's right. I know it's right. So it began to cause me to just question certain things that I had been taught growing up, taught from church, taught from even just my parents. Being that we are very religious, or we grew up very religious, I just kind of held those things though quietly in my heart. I didn't just always say shit about it because, baby, my dad, that Capricorn, Sagittarius rising, he did not play. He did not play. So, certain things I just kept within, and I had questions about them, and so I would ask God about it, which is a simple thought. I'd be like, I wonder this and I wonder that. I had all these questions in my head that I may not have been able to ask my parents because of their belief systems and not wanting to rock the boat like that. And my questions would get answered eventually, like through I would be reading the Bible, um, or I would eventually, when the World Wide Web came out, I'd be on there, and maybe my spirit will remind me of something that I was wondering about, something that I had read or that I was thinking about, and then it would lead me to information, and then I would be reading, and I would eat that shit up, and I'd be like, oh my God. And I learned about the Mazzaroth, and the Mazzaroth and the Zodiac are the same. So that really kind of began me understanding that there is a lot of information in the Bible that a lot of our people just don't understand, and they teach against it, not realizing that it's actually in the Word, and not negatively either. I digress on that. This video is getting really long, and I can be very long winded, and I don't want to lose too many people's interest. So I think what I really just wanted you guys to get from this part is how I'm a lover, how at my core, all I want is love, and all I want to do is love. At my core, I have this huge idea about being in a beautiful relationship with somebody. I will say this, going back to my childhood really quickly to tie it all in together. I will say that because I was molested and essayed, okay, so often. And not only that, it wasn't even just that though. It was sometimes even the looks and the catcalls from men who were older than me, walking down the street, up and down the neighborhood and stuff like that, even that felt like it was encroaching upon me and that it was wrong, right? But it happened. So I wanted a protector. I wanted someone to protect me like at all times. And I just kind of like projected that image onto what a husband would probably be, right? I'm not crying, I promise. There's just something in my eye. I've cried so many tears about this before. I'm not going to say that I won't ever cry again during sharing, but if I do, it'll be maybe because of something else, because it won't be that. But so I created this ideal about my husband protecting me. You know, if I had a man, if I have a husband, I'm thinking about this at 13 and 14. If I have a husband, because I wanted to do everything what I thought was the right way. There's no boyfriends as we know in the Bible and scripture, so it's not talked about. But so I was like, I remember praying for a husband, and I was just like, Lord, I just want my husband to protect me and to love me and to not think I'm nasty. And I always wanted to be able to share myself with this person, and and they like legit, not that they don't judge me, but that that person would still choose me after all was said and done. Now that might make me cry because to this day, that is how I am. I'm going to stop on that note. I hope you guys enjoyed this part of my testimony, I guess, and this part of my, um, chronicling my glow up. I want to say that part of that time in my life, I glued. Um, I was able to glow up because I really, really had to learn how to speak to myself. I really had to learn how to encourage myself. I really had to learn how to combat these negative ass thoughts that were coming from me to me. And I had to combat them with the word of God, you know, that I chose to believe was true for me. And that became an integral part of my life. That helped me when I got bullied in school. It helped me when I was called ugly, when I was called fish lips, cockroach, whatever I was called, when I got beat up. It helped me. I would go home, stand in the mirror, and I would do that thing that I did usually quietly in my head. If I was by myself in the bedroom, I would do that in the mirror out loud. And that helped build my confidence. I was already a naturally confident kid, like I said. Like I mentioned before, I didn't even know that I was funny looking until somebody else said that I was funny looking. And that began to make me question my looks. Bucktooth and all, I was happy I was going to be myself. But after hearing that person say that, it did make me a little self conscious about it. So I kind of started to hide it a little bit, but I couldn't because I always like was smiling. I couldn't help it. I thank God now for that. But all in all, there were certain parts of my childhood that really helped me to formulate coping mechanisms. That's what I have to say for now. So, um, let me know how any of this resonated with you guys. If you've made it thus far in the video, I will be back, and I'm so happy. I literally covered everything that was in my notebook. I covered everything. So I'm sure I'll have more things that come up for me, but that little girl is still here within me. The one before, the sexual abuse, and the one after. And we're just kind of trying to work together to create a lifestyle that we feel happy about, that we feel confident about. And hopefully, you guys will join me on that journey and maybe in some way even help me get there. Without further ado, thank you for listening thus far. I appreciate you. I hope that something encourages you or just makes you feel seen too. Yeah. Peace, love, light, and darkness, which all work together to bring balance and harmony first within ourselves and then within our world. Bye, you guys.